Welcome to the second episode of Your Migraine Story Matters. It's so good to have got this season going once more, and I'm really excited to introduce you to today's guest, Karen Martin. I've been so excited to meet Karen via LinkedIn, one of my main platforms, alongside this one on Substack. As anyone who's listening might be aware, I've recently launched a Let's Talk About Life series. In the last few months, but diverted it a little bit for a few months to reading a live chapter each week where we meet together in a circle style format. And Karen was one of the first people to jump on and say she was going to come. So I've really felt a connection to her from that moment. And I was really thrilled when Karen went and shared a beautiful LinkedIn post the following day, just sharing with her audience the connection that she'd made with me and how she found that experience. So welcome so much, Karen.
I'm so happy to be here. It's been so exciting to follow along so far with your journey. And yeah, just getting in the room with people who understand is
Mm,
like gold. Like
mm.
for someone who suffers with migraine, it can feel very isolating, I think, for a lot of the time. But even online, it's great to have a little community going. So yeah, thank you for having me.
And have you found, would you, I know we're going to dive in right into it here, but yeah, I'm intrigued by that now. Would you say that you've found your people? How have you found connecting with those who get it without you having to explain?
Yeah, I mean, I've had people around me all my life who have had migraine. So I have had people like that, but especially like you say, because we've met through LinkedIn, that kind of more corporate business um field, it's quite hard to find people who are either understanding or who have had experiences it with themselves. So like to get that kind of community going it's been quite hard for me over the past several years since I joined LinkedIn. But yeah, so thankful for it. The more people speaking up, the better.
Brilliant. Well, I'm absolutely um, dying to know more about your story and your journey. So I'm really excited to get into that. So would you like start tell me about your migraine story, Karen?
Yeah, so I think mine's quite a strange one. I was diagnosed when I was about 7 or 8, I think.
Oh wow, that is unusual.
Yeah, so this was back in the 90s, like 96, 97, 98, some time.
Mm.
My mum had migraine.
Right.
My granddad had migraine. My sister, she also suffers with migraine. So it's a very familial thing for our family. Um, but going through school and having that diagnosis, but again, not many people knowing really what that meant in adults, let alone children, it was quite difficult. Yeah, it was quite a lot for such a young kid to kind of try and get their head around. And yes, I had my mum explaining things to me and things like that, but it was hard, especially going into like secondary school. Uh,
Mm.
there'd be a lot of kind of, I don't want to say nasty comments because I don't think they were nasty comments. I think it was just people not understanding what migraine was. And again, we're going back to the stereotype of it's just a headache. Um,
Mm.
Sometimes I'd take days off school and things like that and miss things. And then I'd have people be like, oh, well, why would you stay off for a headache? Like that kind of thing. So going through that stage of life was actually quite interesting.
Mm.
Again, trying to find my people. It was quite difficult not having anyone my age. Yeah, it was quite tough. But then going through university, it was a bit more. There were more people who understood. And then coming into the job world, that's where I kind of hit another wall. I thought because things had got better at university and I was surrounded by like-minded people, going into the workplace would be, well, it's the next stage on from that, right? You'd think these are adults, they might know, like, have a bit more knowledge about things and kind of understand. Some jobs were up for a conversation about it. I would bring it up in like interviews and things like that, just so people were aware because I previously having time off and things like that. So There were some jobs who weren't very supportive and would be like, "Well, we need to see doctors' notes and things like that." One even asked for a list of medication, which was very what the heck. Uh,
Wow.
yeah. Um, but I have definitely found my people now at my work. My boss Ollie is absolutely incredible.
Wow.
Gen Z, so which is another refreshing kind of output on life. He's
Mm.
more happy to be involved in conversations about migraine, how he can help, how the business can help, things like that. So
Wow.
definitely. So if anyone is like worrying about kind of like the workplace aspect, there are people out there, I promise. You might have to go through a few to find those people, but there are people who actually have that kind of empathy and want to learn.
This is really inspiring and hopeful because yeah, it doesn't sometimes feel like that's going to be the case, and this does sound. I mean, this is no mean feat. How did you go about bringing in this kind of support in the workplace for yourself? Like,
I think just as I've got older, I've kind of become more of an advocate for myself.
mm,
When I was younger, I was just I put it on my own Facebook because I was coming on here. I was selective mute when I was young, and the thought of me doing something like this now, that previous like younger me would be like, "What are you doing? Like, why are you doing this?" So I think it has a part of, but it's a big part of me growing up, I think, and realizing that, especially with migraine, the best advocates are the people who know what's going on. And if you're dealing with attacks yourself, then who else is a better advocate for yourself than yourself, really? You know what you need, you know what your triggers are, you know what you need when you're going through an attack. Whether that's you need to go home in a dark room, ice pack on your head, or are you like someone who could kind of push through maybe till the end of the day and not take off time, or would you be able to still work from home and still be able to medicate and things like that? So I think it's just been a learning journey as I've got older and just having them really honest conversations with employers. Yeah, definitely. I think that's worth it. And if we can educate employers, then that's half the battle won for people staying in work and just wanting to make a life for themselves, I think.
this is absolutely amazing. I'm so glad to hear that you've found that kind of support and understanding around you.
Yeah, it was very kind of I don't want to say shocking because it wasn't a shock. It was just more of a, oh, hang on a minute. You actually value me as a person, as an employee, but you also understand my limitations as well. Um, so yeah, it's great. It's been an interesting journey for sure.
I'm really pleased to hear that. I'm also really intrigued to hear how, when migraine it presents in children, it often presents very differently in children to adults. How has that progressed from being a young girl through puberty and adolescence, and then into adulthood in terms of the symptoms and the types of attack and types and nature of attack?
So yeah, when I was first diagnosed, it was just the pain in my head. That was the kind of initial. That's what I went to the doctors for. Um, I was also diagnosed when I was younger with a lazy eye, and my mum would always ask me, "Have you got a migraine?" And I'd say, "No, no, 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 no." And she's like, "I can tell you're lying because your lazy eye goes off on a wander, basically." So they were the two kind of only understandable symptoms at that point. As I went through puberty, they did ramp up,
Mm,
leave the link with menstrual cycles and things like that. Um, I did get put on the pill, which I know you talked about in your last stream. Uh,
oh,
I also got put on the same one as you did, the combined, yeah, the combined pill.
combination pill and things. Yeah.
Um, I got put on that. I think when I was 16 to try and help the migraines as well as my cycle and things like that. So it did calm down, and then I got oh, you really shouldn't be put on this if you have migraine,
Wow.
because I'd started having aura, and that kind of came around the time of like me starting my periods and things like that. So I have visual disturbances. Up until that point, the visual disturbances was another symptom. And then when I went to uni, I don't know if it was the stress or the change of city, but I then started getting the weakness on one side as well. So that was quite scary to be away from home and having that just randomly pop up. That was just an additional extra. Um,
Very scary. Is that linked to like hemiplegic
yeah,
migraine?
so
Yeah.
yeah, it depends which side my migraine's on. Usually it's my left side.
Mm.
So when I'm talking of things, I usually when if I've got a migraine, and that's when I know it's starting. So but yeah, like the change between just the standard like having head pain, to now having obviously the more advanced symptoms, that's been a learning curve in itself. And like I say, with the like hemiplegic symptoms coming on, that was when it started kind of getting a bit, oh, hang on, I need to do something more with this. Um,
Mm.
so yeah, it was a journey again. Like I say, migraine is a journey. It's never one flat road, is it? There's always several different avenues that your brain just decides it wants to take.
Mm. Absolutely, yeah. And how have you found them progress throughout your continued adult years to where you are now? You mentioned that there might be um, increased frequency or symptoms during different periods of your life.
Absolutely. The weather is one big trigger of mine. So with all the hot weather recently, it's just been migraine central for me. The change in pressure, and things like that. And obviously, as you get older, we all know life becomes a bit more stressful. Without anything else in the world going on, your life just naturally becomes more stressful as obviously you take on more responsibilities and things like that. So stress is another a trigger for me, which obviously when I was a kid, there was very little stress in the sense of the stress of an adult life, I guess.
Mm.
So I have seen an increase as I've got older, but my mum did as well. So I'm kind of going parallel with her journey at this point. So it's not something that worries me, but I am conscious that again, migraine's not going to be the same as it is now in maybe 10 years. So yeah, it, it's a change.
And how do you support yourself through those periods of stress and increased levels of responsibilities? What's kind of your
Uh,
approach?
I like to journal. I've got a little journal note section on my phone, and I like to just jot down things that are stressing me out and how I'm feeling about that. And it's just good to look back on. Say if I've had a migraine the following day after a really stressful event, it's easy to say, like, oh well, that could be linked to that. Um, I have an app on my phone. It's called Migraine Buddy, and you can add your attacks as they're happening, what you've done, times you've taken your medication, the weather, literally anything that you can note down. So I try and fill that out as much as I can, obviously mid attack, but that's handy as well to try and figure out what them new triggers might be. I know normal triggers, but trying to figure out if there's any new ones that come on as well.
Amazing. And yeah, you live in Cumbria, don't you? I'm across in Yorkshire in England, and you live over in Cumbria with that amazing view.
Yeah, so I'm originally from Morecambe in Lancashire. Went to uni in Sheffield, and I've now found myself on the edge of the Lake District in Cumbria. So
Wow.
yeah, I get about a bit up north, I think.
I love it. I was born in Lancashire, so Blackburn. And
Fab.
then, so you've gone that way, and I've gone that way, kind of.
Okay.
Oh, brilliant! And how do you how? Because I mean, Cumbria, the scenery, the nature and everything is magnificent. Obviously, it's very mountainous region. For any listeners that don't know, it's very mountainous. Although I say that Lancashire's quite a hilly place actually as well, isn't it? Yorkshire, where I am, it's very flat. How have you found that impact your health?
I found that I'm getting out a lot more, which is, I think, better for my mental health, which I guess in turn reduces my stress that way. Um, it's just a lot more chilled up here. Having lived in like cities and things before, it's quite a lot of hustle and bustle, and especially at uni, I've kind of found it hard trying to push through those attacks. You know, when you've got to do something that day, you need to do it, and pushing through and just going through a town centre or a city centre that's just bustling with people when you've got photophobia, or you're starting to slow your words as well. You feel a bit more kind of, not that everyone is looking at you, but you feel kind of like you're drawing attention to yourself because you're either like walking like that or.
Oh
Uh,
yeah.
but up here, everyone is just, it's just such a tight knit community, and the friends that I've made up here are honestly just friends for life.
Oh,
People are just that, I can't even describe the Cumbrian people to you. They are really lovely, and I just feel really accepted and understood up here. I've not really had anyone come up to me and just be like, "Oh, why are you doing that? It's just a headache," kind of thing. It's People are more willing to listen. I think it is that community spirit up here that people have been brought up in to kind of look out for each other a bit more.
gosh, that's incredible. And
Amazing.
how does that leave you feeling, when you feel like, you've been accepted by other people and understood?
It feels strange. It does feel strange, especially when there's not been a fight or a long list of kind of me having to explain things. It's kind of people just accept who people are for who they are. There's no kind of ulterior motive or anything like that. It's kind of like, oh well, okay, that's you. This is me. This is how our relationship is going to go on. So, yeah, it's great, and it's really fun. Just living in a separate part of the country. I know it's only like over one border, but it's lovely to yeah see the differences in people. Even though it's like 70 odd miles away from where I'm from, so it's not that far really.
Amazing.
Really, and if anyone's listening, you have to come. Maybe not in summer though, because it'll be absolutely rammed.
Did you move there intentionally then, like to look for ways to kind of, leave the bright lights of the city and move to somewhere a bit slower paced and a little bit calmer, or was it
It was
just?
a kind of mix, I guess. I'd been living back at home for quite a few years after uni, and I just wanted something different. And I then met my boyfriend, who is Cumbrian, so it was kind of just oh well, let's move up and see what the opportunities are up there. And I secured a job, and yeah, just moved up here, not with any kind of expectation in mind. I think that was a lot of the reason I wanted to move up. I didn't want that expectation from people, or yeah, it was kind of, I don't want to say a spur of the moment, but it was kind of I met my boyfriend, and within 2 years I was moved up here, and I just haven't left. So
Amazing. Amazing. So, for our listeners that are listening today, in what ways would you encourage them if they're still looking for their people, if they're still looking to be accepted and understood and supported in the workplace? What would you say to those people?
I would just say you need to be honest, and it's very hard to get to the point where you can feel like you're being honest, especially because I assume a lot of people will have the same kind of, if you bring it up, you've got that like it can't be that bad, that kind of attitude, and that does.
Judgment into, I think the fear of judgment, I have to say, for me personally, and I'm sure plenty of other listeners will relate, that fear of judgment can be all encompassing, really. So, yeah, how would you speak to that?
And I think it is just realizing that this is you, that there's nothing wrong with you. As much as some people might want to make out that there is, you are you. And I think the more people that can accept themselves and realize that there's actually power um in their experiences, and that's a lot of the reason why I do a lot of posts on LinkedIn and things like that and outreach for migraine, because I think seeing other people like on a platform like that you've created, just talking about their journey and how they're managing and how they're successful as well. I think it can be quite daunting for people to think that that is a possibility,
Mm.
especially when you've had a lifetime of people kind of just dismissing you. So I'd say it you need to be honest with yourself before you can be honest with other people. Um, and accepting it, as horrible as dealing with migraine is, it is a part of us. There are things that we can do to help ourselves. And I'm not saying that like we can cure ourselves, but there are things that each individual can find that will help them. And it's just about being open to understanding that there are options available that don't have to cost the world. That like the little ice cool cap things, like you can buy them for what, £7, and honestly, I couldn't live without mine now. So it's just about that being accepting of yourself,
Oh, I
accepting.
think we've just
Oh, are we there?
we just froze a little bit, but we're back. Continue. Keep. Yeah. All good.
Um, yeah, no, it was. I was just going to say, just being able to accept yourself, accept migraine exists, um,
Mm.
but be willing to advocate for yourself and research and try and find things that work for you. What works for me might not necessarily work for you. Because again, every migraine is different. Yeah, it's just I think just being honest with yourself first is my um main
Yeah, I
tip.
think that's really key. That's really important. And that, like you say, I appreciate you speaking to that, because that can be challenging in itself. That is not an easy, and we're not here to suggest that this is kind of overnight stuff, are we? You know, as you've been sharing, Karen, this is it's a journey. And it's not a linear one, and it's not one with an easy solution. But I like the way that you instill hope, that find the things that work for you, because there are things that work for you, and like you know, quite rightly say, like that is going to look different for you as it does for me, as it does for each of our listeners. But just knowing that there are things, and that there are people out there, because it doesn't always feel like that. And perhaps if we can open up a little bit of hope and possibility. I think that's the key for me. You know, we're told what isn't possible, um, but let's start looking at what is. You know, what is possible.
Absolutely. And I think one of the barriers for me previously was I didn't necessarily consider myself having like a chronic illness. I think that's been one of the main things
Mm.
past like year, coming to terms with that myself. It came up actually after a chat with the Migraine Trust, for I think it was their Migraine Awareness Week last year.
Mhm.
One of the questions was something like, "How do you deal with living with a chronic illness?" And I was like, that kind of took me back, because I don't consider it to be a chronic illness because I've lived with it so long. In my head, it was just the norm.
Wow.
So that's been an interesting figuring out my feelings around that, and things like that. But even reaching out to people like you, Amber, it's just been really, really helpful in getting my head around that and using that for a force of good rather than let it be like, oh, okay, I didn't realize this. But yeah, no, yeah, we need to turn it into something positive because there's so much negative around it. We need to make migraine, or talking about migraine, a positive thing.
Yeah, and I think oh gosh, a lot of people will be able to relate to the whole chronic and also the disabling thing, because somebody in the last couple of years asked me how long I've been disabled by migraine disease, and I was completely stumped because I couldn't work it out. Where does it begin and where does it end? And I wasn't always chronic myself, but I sat with it for quite some time, actually, probably for a good few months. And actually, I was disabled by migraine attacks every single time from the moment that violent and agonizing attacks first began at the age of 18. But then even being on this journey and doing some of the deeper reflective work like you have around what's really going on, what's really coming up for me, getting it down on paper, reflecting on my feelings. Actually, when I look back, there were signs before it got that severe. But nevertheless, ever from that day, in kind of like 1998, I think it was, I've been disabled by every single attack and just not known. So yeah, I know that a lot of us feel the same way. And I remember seeing the neurologist, and he told me it was one of the world's most disabling diseases. By that time, I was chronic, and everything in my life had collapsed. I was physically no longer able to work again, and he said it was one of the most disabling diseases in the world. And I said to him, I didn't know that, but that is exactly how I feel.
Absolutely, and that's it, isn't it? Like there's so many conditions around the world, and it's just like, but for outsiders looking in, it's kind of like us being that group of people who either you're not going to talk about it, or you get people like us who want to talk about it all the time. There's no kind of consistent migraine message going out, whereas obviously with like horrendous diseases such as like cancers and things like that, we're always in the media, so we're always exposed to that as a people. But with migraine, we all seem to kind of just be in our little group. And what I hope will happen in the future is that we will splinter off and be able to talk about it more widely and have that coverage, I guess. I don't, maybe not coverage, but that sentiment, yes. Because it is disabling, and for a lot of people it is life changing.
Massively, gosh, yeah.
I can't imagine like your journey getting to 18 and then having your life completely turned upside down. And I've said this to a few people. I feel quite lucky that I was diagnosed quite young. Obviously, not for the support that wasn't really there back then, but that it became the norm for me in the sense that I didn't have to learn about it when I was older and realize that my life had completely changed. Migraine's gone with me through my life, so it's kind of, it's not as a big of a change, obviously with different symptoms and things like that, but it's not been a life-changing upheaval of everything that I'd been doing and known before. So I can only imagine how hard that was for you and the listeners that have that journey as well.
Well, I just learnt to numb out. I drank a lot and took a lot of drugs. In fact, yeah, I need to put this in my book somewhere, because in the 80s, I don't know if you're not in the 80s, sorry, in the late 90s, the BBC News told us that if we took ecstasy, it would kill us. So I actually took it because I believed them. I believed it was going to kill me, and I was like, I'm really glad. And I imagine my surprise when instead I, in fact, had a really good time. And felt a lot of euphoric feelings. So I learned to numb it out, actually. So I can't really complain too much either, because I had a couple of decades partying, working hard. That was another way I numbed out. Working, eating, drinking, taking drugs, partying, busy, one thing to the next all the time, apart from obviously when I couldn't. And then I kind of locked myself away and hid that away from the rest of the world. So coping, isn't it? I think that's what we learn to do with it, in the absence of recognition and support and understanding from those around us. But I do feel like there's change. I do feel like there's a lot of change happening. I think, like you say, there's the Migraine Trust, which is fantastic. I mean, their awareness campaign is brilliant, is I feel is brilliant. Um, then you've got the Migraine World Summit, which I say this to people all the time, but if I met that guy, I would literally could get down on the floor and kiss his feet. Carl Cincinnato, for experiencing a lot of what we have and then bringing this to the world to help other people and making what has been so deeply complex and misunderstood, but also lacking in awareness, because we have all this insight and knowledge and understanding medically in the field at the top, and it hasn't been disseminated and taught down to our specialists. And that, you know, the global impact that this guy has had, and provisions like that, and then people like yourself and me and other people in the chronic illness community who will be silenced no more. We are talking about it. We are being honest with the people around us, whether that's your work colleagues and the people that you work for, your loved ones, your family, your friends. I feel a lot of change, and certainly a lot more hope than I used to. I don't know about you.
Absolutely. And that's the aim of this, right? Like I say, I personally want to turn my journey and my experience into something that can maybe just speak even with one person that's going through migraine and be like, oh, okay, well, if she can do it, why can't I? And then
Mm,
the more people that we can reach like that, the silent ones, I think I think that's the way that we can do like the most good in the world, I think. And just encourage people that everyone's story is different and everyone's story has something to learn. Like for us
mm.
about because yeah, we're all migraine sufferers, but like I say, we're all on our different journeys together, and that might look different for each of us. So
But we don't have to do it on our own. I love that. We don't have to do it on our own. We don't have to suffer alone. We don't have to endure alone. There are people out there who understand, who get it. What does the term holistic migraine warrior mean to you, Karen?
I think to me it means again looking at things that could potentially support you. Medication wise, yeah, that's great. We've got medications that can help, but there's also natural things. I'm a massive advocate for like animal welfare and things like that. So looking into natural things has always been on my radar. I've tried every balm going, even if it helps just a little bit, it's a win. So
Absolutely, yeah.
yeah, I'm a massive fan of looking for alternative and um, natural things that can help. Because let's face it, price of a prescription is not exactly cheap, and sometimes you just need something that's not as damaging to your body. I'm not saying all medication is damaging, but sometimes you just need something that's not going to be putting your body under stress while it's already under stress.
And I think it being in combination with and being in balance with, because I don't know if you found the same, like you said, that there are things that can help and they do tend to help only a little bit. But for me, where this came from was when a neurologist shared with me that magnesium and vitamin B12, he said, take them together. They are a small help for pain. And it was in that moment when I was a few months into my journey of research and exploration and making changes that I just then had this kind of aha moment. Oh, all these changes, these small changes that I'm making that have a small impact will lead to big change in the future. And that was just revolutionary for me at that time. And that's what I found, that it isn't an isolated thing or one or the other. You know, it's not medical or holistic. It's like, how can we integrate this and bring it together and make these teeny tiny changes to make them long lasting and sustainable? Have you found similar yourself?
Yeah, definitely. And I think we live in such a society that we kind of want instant relief right now. We need to do something right now.
Mm,
Um, and I think a lot of people with migraine will resonate with that that isn't the case. So while it'd be great to have instant relief, there's still moments where we've got to take the medication, wait 20 minutes until it kicks in and things like that. So just even in that interim bit, if it's just like rubbing a balm that's specifically made for migraine, or putting deep heat or something like that on your back because your neck's spasming, or something, just something to make that wait a little bit easier for then the meds to do their things. I think there's always room for that. I think um the more that people research, they will find things that they probably wouldn't even consider. Like you said, the magnesium and B12, it's not something that you look at and think, oh well, that'll help with a migraine.
Yeah,
Um
you.
so yeah, I think people need to be a bit more open-minded when it comes to thinking of things that would help. And obviously, the doctors know what they're talking about and things like that. But there are other options to kind of bring that pain level down, or just help in another way, whether it's muscle spasms, things like that. There are things that are just from nature that, let's face it, we've got a beautiful earth as it is. So if it can look after itself, I'm sure it can look after us as well. So yeah, I'm 100% advocate for you do what you need to do, whether that is meds, whether that's holistic, whether it's a mixture of both. You do.
Amazing. That feels like a beautiful place to bring this to its conclusion with you saying about the earth taking care of itself. I love that. Where can listeners find you if they do want to follow you or reach out to you, speak to you?
Uh,
Is it welcome? How would they go about doing that?
I'm usually on LinkedIn talking about my migraine. I have set up a Substack based on Amber.
Yay! That's what we love. Come and join us.
So
I'm
I'll
excited to
put
do that.
yeah, I'll pass the link on to Amber when I've fully set that up and kind of got uh
Okay.
some stories and things to share on that. But yeah, on LinkedIn, just Karen Martin on LinkedIn, and then you should probably find me quite easily, I think. But if not, I'm sure.
I'll add both the links to LinkedIn and your Substack on the notes when this goes out. So amazing! Oh, I can't wait to follow more of your journey on Substack then and hear more about it. I'm very excited about that.
Thank you for inspiring me. I mean, it wasn't something that had even crossed my mind, but when I started reading yours, I was kind of like, oh my gosh, like there's another place I can add my voice and I can just scream into the void if I want. But if people want to join and follow along, you're more than welcome to.
Oh, it's an amazing community. You're going to love it, Karen. There are some wonderful people. I've met so many fellow chronic illness and migraineurs as well. Like it just, oh, yeah, welcome. You're going to love it.
Yeah,
Lots of room for you here, and the community is wonderful. Yeah, it's a brilliant space.
incredible. I can't wait. Can't wait.